She was left alone on a cold planet, but she kept waiting for love. The stars above were quiet. The planet below was cold and silent, covered in snow that never melted. And in the middle of it all stood a tall silver palace, forgotten by time and people. Inside that lonely palace lived Queen Aurelia, once the most powerful woman in the galaxy. Now she had no crown, no servants, no husband, only silence. She stood by the frozen window, her long dark dress blowing gently in the icy wind. Her fingers touched the cold glass. Somewhere far beyond the stars, her husband, the alien King Thellos, now lived with another woman, a younger queen. A queen who could give him what Aurelia could not. A child. That was her only sin. She could not become a mother. Years ago, King Thellos had loved her. He had promised her the world, the stars, even forever. But slowly that love died. Each year, he asked the royal doctors, "Is there any progress?" And each year, the answer was the same: no child. The court began whispering behind her back, "She is broken. She is useless. A queen with no hair is no queen at all." And one day, Thellos spoke the words she would never forget. "You will always have my respect, but I must choose the future of my empire." With that, he sent her away. Not to prison, but worse. He gave her this cold planet, far from the royal worlds. "Live in peace," he said, but there was no peace in her heart. 10 long years passed. The snow never stopped falling. The palace lights grew dim. Dust covered the once beautiful halls. Her throne stood empty. The only sound now came from the wind howling outside. Even her few loyal servants had left, afraid of being punished for staying with a forgotten queen. She no longer cried. There were no more tears left. But every night, she would light a small candle near her window. A signal, a prayer, a hope. One night, she stood on the balcony, staring into the sky. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "If anyone can hear me, I'm still here. I still believe in love, even if it's not for me." She closed her eyes. The wind kissed her cheeks. And in that moment, far above the clouds, something moved. High in the dark space above, a small human ship was spinning out of control. Flames burst from the engines. The pilot, Captain Ray Carter, a human explorer, shouted over the alarm, "I'm hit. I'm going down." His ship entered the atmosphere of the icy moon. He saw mountains of snow, storms of ice, and then a strange shape, a palace. The ship crashed in a frozen forest, not far from the palace gates. Back in the palace, Aurelia felt something. The ground shook a little. The lights flickered. Her heart beat faster. She turned to the sky. A trail of fire was falling. A ship. A comet. No, this was not a natural thing. Someone, or something, was coming. For the first time in 10 years, she ran. She grabbed her long cloak, opened the heavy doors, and stepped into the storm outside. Her feet sank into deep snow as she followed the smoke. Trees bent from the heat of the crash. The sky was still glowing red. She reached the crash site. The ship was broken, half buried in ice. She heard a groan. Cautiously, she stepped forward. A figure was crawling out, blood on his forehead, breathing hard. Not alien. Human. She gasped. It had been many years since she had seen a human in real life. They were banned in the royal territories. No human had ever landed here and lived to tell the story. The man collapsed. Aurelia rushed forward, her voice shaking. "Can you hear me? Are you alive?" The man opened one eye and gave a weak smile. "Wow, either I'm dead or you're an angel." She blinked. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not in years. She looked up at the stars, then back at him. Was this a mistake? Or was this the answer to her prayer? She didn't know. But in her heart, something had changed. The cold didn't feel so cold anymore. A human crashes on the Queen's forbidden planet. Snow blew hard through the broken trees. The crash site still burned with red light. Metal scraps sizzled in the ice, and black smoke curled up into the alien sky. Queen Aurelia stood at the edge of the wreck, her heart pounding. She had not felt this alive in years. Her eyes locked on the man lying in the snow, a stranger, a survivor, a human. His breath was shaky. His clothes were torn. Blood dripped from his brow, freezing almost instantly in the cold air. Aurelia dropped to her knees beside him, unsure if she was afraid or curious. He opened one eye slowly and looked at her. "Are you real?" he asked. "Or am I dreaming?" "You're not dreaming," she whispered. He smiled faintly before passing out again. She didn't think. She just acted. With great effort, she lifted him from the snow. He was heavy, but her body remembered strength. Years of loneliness had made her tired, but not weak. Step by step, she dragged him back to the palace. Inside, the halls felt different, warmer, more alive. She laid him gently on a soft bed and removed his wet clothes, leaving only his base layers. She placed warm blankets over him and lit the old energy heaters. The hum of the machines returned to life. Even they seemed to wake up for this man. Who was he? Why was he here? She stared at him for a long time. His face was softer than any alien's. His jaw was strong, his skin sun-kissed, not blue or green like the people she once ruled. A small scar crossed his cheek. Maybe a soldier? An explorer? She sighed. It didn't matter. He was here now, and somehow he had come to her. It took a full day before he opened his eyes again. When he did, he looked around confused. "Where am I?" "You're safe," she said. "You crashed on this moon." He sat up slowly, groaning. "Right. The engines failed. I was trying to outrun a patrol ship near the trade border. Didn't think I'd survive. Guess I was wrong." "You're human," she said softly. He looked at her with surprise. "And you're not. But you speak English." "I learned many years ago. From a diplomat." He nodded. "Then we can understand each other." She offered him warm soup. He accepted with a quiet thank you. For a while, they said nothing. Just silence. Safe silence. Then he asked, "This place, it's beautiful, but feels like a prison. Why are you here?" Her lips pressed together. "Because I was left here." He frowned. "Left? You mean abandoned?" She didn't answer right away. Then, in a low voice, she said, "I was once queen of a great empire, but I could not give my husband a child. So he replaced me, banished me, and the people forgot me." He looked shocked. That's insane. You were queen, and now you're alone because of that." She nodded. "On this planet, a woman's worth is judged by what she can give, not who she is." Ray, that was his name, he later told her, shook his head. "Where I come from, we don't believe in that. Or at least, we're trying not to." She looked at him. "You speak as if your world is better." He smiled, tired but sincere. "Not better. Just different. Messy. But free." She watched him closely. Something inside her shifted. A small light flickered in her chest. It had been dark for so long, she didn't remember what warmth felt like. "Why were you being chased?" she asked. He sighed. "Because I'm a human. We're not allowed in royal space anymore. Your king signed a treaty last year. Said we were too dangerous." "Are you?" she asked. He looked at her with a smirk. "What do you think?" She didn't answer, but something about his presence didn't feel dangerous. In fact, it felt safe. That night, she showed him the palace gardens, now frozen under layers of ice. He laughed, gently kicking snow off a marble bench. "You used to live here alone." "I still do," she replied. "Not anymore," he said. She looked away, hiding the small smile on her lips. They walked in silence under the stars. Ray shared stories about Earth, its cities, oceans, wars, and dreams. Aurelia listened like a child hearing fairy tales for the first time. "Do humans believe in fate?" she asked suddenly. He thought for a second. "Some do. Some think everything is random. But me, I think, sometimes the universe gives you a second chance." She looked up at the sky. "So do I. But peace never lasts forever." The next morning, while Ray was fixing his ship's broken communicator, the palace warning lights flashed red. Aurelia froze. Those alarms hadn't worked in years. "What is it?" Ray asked, already grabbing his gear. She stared at the screen. A small alien drone had entered the planet's atmosphere. A royal scout. "They found us," she whispered. Ray's eyes narrowed. "Then we hide. Or fight. But we don't give up." "Why are you not afraid?" she asked. He gave a short laugh. "Because I've seen worse than this, and I didn't survive a crash just to get arrested now." He grabbed a weapon he had rebuilt using ship parts and palace tech. Primitive, but effective. "You're crazy," she said. He looked at her with fire in his eyes. "No," he said. "I'm human." They are not supposed to fall in love. But it happens. The snowstorm outside had finally calmed. But inside the ancient palace, a different kind of storm was building. For the first time in years, Queen Aurelia felt the warmth of laughter. Real laughter. Not polite court smiles, not political jokes, but the kind that shook the chest and made her eyes water. And the reason? A human named Ray Carter. A stubborn, funny, fearless man who somehow crashed into her broken world and started to heal it. He danced like no one was watching, and definitely like he didn't care who was judging. They stood in what was once the royal ballroom. Its high glass ceilings were cracked, and its grand chandeliers hung tilted. But Ray didn't seem to notice. He pressed a button on a small speaker he repaired from his ship. Music, strange earth music, soft guitar, and warm voices filled the room. Aurelia had never heard such sound before. Alien music was cold, ceremonial. This made her heart move. Ray offered his hand, grinning. "Dance with me." She hesitated. "No one's watching," he said softly. So she placed her hand in his, unsure if it was right, but certain it felt right. He guided her slowly. One step, then another. She moved like a statue at first, stiff and unsure. But Ray didn't laugh. He only smiled, holding her gently. "You're doing great," he said. Her eyes sparkled. "I haven't danced in over a decade." "Then let's make this one count." They moved in slow circles, their shadows spinning under the dim lights. His touch was respectful, his smile sincere, and for the first time since she was exiled, Aurelia felt something she had forgotten. She felt beautiful, but beauty often wakes the sleeping wolves. The royal drone that had spotted them earlier had sent a silent signal, a beacon. Now, far away in the royal capital, that signal reached King Thelos. He stared at the screen in disbelief. Her planet was never meant to receive visitors, he growled. "Who is this man?" The guard replied, "Human, sire, possibly a smuggler or rebel." The king's eyes narrowed. "She's hiding him, protecting him. Why?" The answer was clear. He slammed his fist down. "Send a team. Quietly. I want him erased, and I want her reminded of her place." Back on the frozen moon, Aurelia and Ray sat beside a small indoor fire. They had made a habit of sharing stories before sleep. Ray told her about dogs, animals on Earth that were loyal and playful. She told him about her pet shadow beast from childhood, a gentle creature made of soft black mist. They were two lives from two different galaxies, but they laughed like they had always known each other. But deep inside, they both knew something was growing between them. Something dangerous, forbidden. One night, she stood by the same window where she had once cried for love. She looked at the stars. Ray walked in, his voice low. "Can't sleep." "No," she whispered. "I'm afraid." "Of what?" Of what I feel, she said honestly. He stood beside her. Feel for me. She didn't answer, but her silence said enough. He turned toward her, gently lifting her chin. Look, I didn't come here for this. I didn't expect to find you. But now that I have, I can't pretend it's not real. Tears gathered in her eyes. We are not supposed to fall in love. Says who? Ray asked. Your king. Your world. The laws of the stars. He leaned closer, eyes locked on hers. I don't care about any of that. I care about you. Her breath caught. Then, softly, painfully, she said, I am still his wife. Ray took a step back, hurt flashing across his face. But then she reached for his hand. But my heart hasn't belonged to him for a long time. The days that followed were quiet, yet full of energy. Their bond deepened, not just love, but trust. He fixed palace systems long broken. She showed him secret passages and memories long buried. They weren't just healing each other. They were becoming something more. Then came the breaking point. Ray discovered the palace's long-range scanner system was working again, but only partially. He enhanced it using tech from his ship. That's when he saw it. A cloaked royal vessel entering orbit, silent, hidden, watching. He rushed to Aurelia. We have to leave, he said. There's nowhere to go, she replied. They're here for me, he said. And maybe for you too. She stood still, calm. No, she said. They're here to punish me for finding joy again. Ray stepped forward, gripping her shoulders. Then come with me. My ship. I can fix it. We'll run. We'll hide. But she looked at him with eyes full of sorrow and strength. I'm not running anymore. That night, alarms sounded. The power flickered. Ray grabbed a makeshift weapon. They're here. She nodded, walking beside him. Then let them come. But before the enemy arrived, something happened. She collapsed. He caught her just before she hit the floor. Her body was shaking. Ray panicked. What's wrong? The palace AI flickered to life and scanned her body. Then it spoke 3 simple words. Vital signs detected. Pregnancy confirmed. Ray froze. Aurelia stared in shock. That's impossible. He dropped to his knees, his arms around her. You're pregnant, he whispered. She didn't speak. She couldn't, because it shouldn't be possible. Her people had said she was barren, broken, unfit to be a mother. But now, with this human man, her body had defied everything. A miracle had happened. A human child. A miracle happens. The queen discovers something unbelievable. The palace was silent. Snow fell outside like slow falling feathers. Inside, the lights flickered soft and low. The fire in the stone hearth cracked gently. But Queen Aurelia sat frozen, not from the cold, but from the voice she had just heard. Vital signs detected. Pregnancy confirmed. The AI voice echoed once more. Calm. Clinical. But to her, it sounded like thunder in her ears. Pregnant. Her hands trembled as she placed them slowly on her stomach. No, it couldn't be. She had been told it was impossible. Alien doctors had run thousands of tests. They said her body lacked the life-giving energy needed to produce a royal heir. Her womb was silent, they said. But now, her eyes filled with tears. Not sadness, not fear. Hope. Pure, blinding hope. Ray knelt beside her, unsure whether to touch her or not. His voice was soft. You're really pregnant. She nodded slowly, still in shock. He placed his hand gently over hers. It's mine, isn't it? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She didn't need to say anything. The truth was written in her eyes. Ray stared at her, his heart racing. But how? I thought. So did I, she whispered. I never thought I would hear those words. Not ever. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her close, protectively. This changes everything. She leaned into his warmth, her tears soaked into his shoulder. Yes, it changes everything, and it also puts us in danger. The next morning, Aurelia stood in front of the large mirror in her chamber. She ran her fingers down her body slowly, feeling the change already beginning deep inside her. It was still early, she wasn't showing, but she could feel it. A spark, a light, a tiny heartbeat growing inside her. A part of her, a part of him. In the grand hall, Ray studied the sky map from his ship. The cloaked vessel from before had disappeared, but he wasn't relaxed. He knew what it meant. "They're watching," he muttered, waiting. Aurelia entered the hall, now dressed in her royal robe, a symbol of the queen she once was. But today, it felt different. Today, she wasn't wearing it for tradition. She was wearing it for war. "I will not hide anymore," she said firmly. Ray turned toward her. "Then we need to plan. The king won't let this go quietly." She nodded. "He doesn't know yet, but when he finds out, he will try to destroy this child." Ray's jaw clenched. "He won't touch either of you, I swear it." Aurelia smiled gently. "You speak with the heart of a warrior." He smiled back. "No, I speak like a father now." Her heart swelled. But even love couldn't stop what was coming. 2 days later, the signal came. A coded message was intercepted by the palace system. A voice from the royal command ship. "Target confirmed. Proceed with extraction. Do not harm the queen. Eliminate the human." Ray stood with clenched fists. "So that's their plan." Aurelia looked at him. "They want me alive, but not you. And definitely not the baby," Ray added. The reality hit hard. The royal empire would never accept a child of mixed blood. A half-human prince would be a scandal, a threat to the throne. This baby was not just a miracle. He was a revolution. That night, Aurelia returned to the palace's sacred room, the old prayer chamber. It hadn't been used in years. She stood before the great stone statue of Elerin, the goddess of life and stars. She lit a small candle. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I was told I would never become a mother. I accepted my fate. I lived in silence, in shame." Tears slid down her cheeks. "But now you've given me a second chance. A new life. A new hope. I don't ask for power. I don't ask for glory. I only ask for the strength to protect him." Behind her, Ray stood in the doorway, quietly watching. "You already have that strength," he said. She turned, surprised. He walked toward her. "You carried pain for so long. You survived betrayal, exile, and loneliness. And still, you chose to love again. That's real strength." She smiled through her tears. "I never thought a human would be the one to see me." He took her hands gently. "Maybe that's why fate brought me here." They stood together in silence, heart to heart, surrounded by candles and falling starlight through the broken ceiling. But the peace didn't last. The next day, Ray returned from checking the outer gate sensors, pale and breathless. "They've landed," he said. 3 royal warships. I counted at least 15 soldiers, elite class. They're moving in silently." Aurelia didn't flinch. Ray continued, "We need to hide. We can't fight them all." She shook her head. "I'm done hiding." He looked at her, stunned. "Aurelia, I am a queen," she said firmly. "And now I am a mother." Her eyes burned with fire. "I will not run." Ray took a deep breath. "Then we fight." Together, they prepared the palace. Ray used parts from his ship to activate old defense systems, laser turrets, shields, traps. He set up ambush points using tunnels and balconies. Aurelia gathered data, secret codes, palace maps, old weapons stored deep underground. Every hour, she felt her child growing stronger inside her, and it gave her more strength than any sword. The soldiers arrived under the cover of night. But they didn't find a weak queen waiting to be captured. They found a warrior. They found a human with fire in his eyes and steel in his hands. And they found something else they never expected. A heartbeat. One small, quiet sound in the Queen's chamber. A sound that changed everything. The alien king sends assassins, but the human fights back. The moon was quiet. Too quiet. The stars above watched like silent witnesses. Below them, the old palace stood strong against the snowstorm, glowing slightly under the frost-covered sky. But inside, things were not peaceful. Ray Carter stood at the top of the grand staircase, holding a plasma rifle made from pieces of his broken ship. It wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be. It just needed to work. Behind him, Queen Aurelia walked slowly, her hand resting over her stomach, the small life inside her growing stronger each day. Her eyes were sharp. Her royal armor, covered in frost-colored plates, made her look like a queen of ice and fire. Ray looked down at the hallway below. "They're coming," he said. "I know," she whispered. Outside the palace walls, the enemy made their move. 15 royal assassins, cloaked in invisibility gear, crept through the snow. They were handpicked by the king himself, trained to kill without emotion, without mercy. Their leader, a tall alien with pale gray skin and red eyes, gave the order. The queen is not to be harmed. The human is to be erased. The child must not be born. They moved silently, weapons drawn. Each step was like a whisper in the wind. Inside, Ray walked through the halls, checking the traps he had set. Spikes hidden in the walls. Energy mines under the rugs. Auto turrets reactivated after 10 years of silence. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" he asked her. Aurelia stood tall. "This is my home. If they want to take it, they'll have to take me with it." Ray smiled. "That's my girl." She raised an eyebrow. "Your girl?" He shrugged. "Well, I hope so." She gave a tiny smile, despite the danger. Then the alarm screamed. They were in. The first explosion rocked the West Wing. Marble shattered. Walls cracked. One of the traps triggered early, blasting 2 soldiers into the air. Ray ran to the control room. They breached from the lower gardens. "I'm going down there," Aurelia said, grabbing a staff weapon. "You're pregnant," Ray said. "I'm still a queen," she answered. He nodded. He knew there was no point in arguing. In the darkness of the palace, the battle began. Ray moved like a ghost through the shadows. He knew how to fight dirty, Earth style. Surprise attacks, traps, clever tricks. These royal assassins were trained for perfect fights. But humans fought to win. He used mirror tricks to confuse one attacker, then blew up a fuel pipe, knocking out 3 more. The halls filled with smoke and sparks. Meanwhile, Aurelia faced her old guard, the very same who once bowed to her. Now they aimed weapons at her. "Step aside, Queen," one said coldly. "Do not protect the human." "I am not protecting him," she said. "I am standing with him." And then she struck. Her staff weapon spun through the air like a blade of fire. She moved with grace and fury, like a storm. She may have once been forgotten. But now she was unstoppable. Ray ran into the East Wing and slid behind a broken statue. Another assassin was waiting for him, fast, silent, deadly. But Ray wasn't slow either. The alien lunged. Ray ducked, rolled, and slammed a metal pipe into the assassin's leg. It cracked loudly. Ray grabbed the fallen alien's weapon and fired without hesitation. One more down. "Come on," Ray shouted into the comm. "Is that all you got?" He had no idea that the real fight hadn't even started yet. High above, the clouds split open. A royal command ship descended from the sky, and from it stepped King Thelos. He looked older now, colder. His new queen stood beside him, a tall golden-skinned alien with cold blue eyes. "End this quickly," Thelos said. "Bring me the human's head and the child's DNA." Inside the palace, Aurelia and Ray regrouped in the main hall. Her arm was bleeding. His forehead was cut, but they were still standing. They looked at each other, breathing hard. "They just keep coming," Ray said. "They won't stop until we stop them," she said. Then a deep voice echoed through the halls. "Aurelia, my queen, you've forgotten your place." They turned. King Thelos stood at the end of the hall, surrounded by his personal guards. He looked directly at her. "Come home. Forget this nonsense. I'll forgive it all. Just give up the human." She stepped forward. Ray grabbed her arm. "Don't." She raised her hand. "Let me speak." She faced the king, the man who once called her his moon, his fire, his love, and then threw her away. Her voice was clear. "I did not forget my place," she said. "You did." The king's eyes narrowed. "I was your queen, loyal, loving. I gave you my youth, my heart, and my soul, and you abandoned me like I was nothing." "You couldn't give me an heir," he said coldly. "And now I carry one," she said, placing a hand over her stomach. The guards murmured. Even the new queen blinked in shock. The king stepped back. "That's impossible." Aurelia smiled. "Not impossible, just human." Ray stepped beside her, holding a plasma grenade. "You're not taking her, or our child." The king shouted, "Kill them both." And chaos erupted. Ray threw the grenade and dove to cover her. Guards flew through the air. The palace shook. Ray fought like a man who had nothing left to lose, but everything to protect. And Aurelia stood tall in the middle of it all. Radiant, furious, and brave. She blocked blasts with her energy shield and returned fire with a royal cannon. She was no longer the exiled queen. She was the mother of the future. After long minutes of battle, the smoke cleared. The king's guards lay defeated. Ray stood, bruised but smiling. Aurelia held the royal crest in her hand. The king had dropped it while fleeing. "Looks like he ran," Ray said. "No," she replied. "He knows he's lost. Not just the fight, but the people." They walked to the top of the palace steps and looked at the stars. Her voice was strong. "This child is hope." Ray smiled, placing a hand over hers. "And no one is taking him away from us." The king returns, but the galaxy has changed. The battle was over. The snow outside still fell softly, but inside the palace, something had changed forever. The walls that once echoed with silence now buzzed with purpose. Broken halls were being repaired, old systems rebooted. Servants who had once fled were returning, some quietly, some proudly. They whispered to each other, "The queen is with child." The humans survived the king's assassins. A new future is coming. The galaxy was beginning to listen. Ray Carter stood on the highest tower of the palace, looking out across the frozen mountains. His jacket was torn. His face still bore scars from the fight, but his eyes were alive with focus. Below, Queen Aurelia stood in the royal courtyard, speaking with her advisors, old allies who had returned once they heard the news. The queen had survived. And more than that, she carried a child. A child not from the royal bloodline, but from a human. A symbol of rebellion, of hope, of change. Word spread faster than fire across the galaxy. From the silver cities of the lunar colonies to the deep markets of Jorvex 9, news channels buzzed. Barren queen now pregnant. Father is human. Alien king's exiled wife carries intergalactic heir. Human DNA breaks royal curse. What will the king do now? The people were divided. Some were angry. Mixed blood. "It's unnatural," said a noble from the capital. But many were inspired. A young alien girl told the cameras, "She gave me hope. Maybe we're more than just roles and rules." And deep in the human sectors, Ray's story reached Earth. Veterans raised glasses to him. Pilots nodded with pride. One news host smiled on air and said, "That's just like a human man. Crashed the system, saved the girl, and change history. But the king was not silent. He watched all this from his throne room in the royal capital. His golden halls felt colder than ever. His new queen sat beside him, quiet and unreadable. Fellows smashed a glass of royal wine to the floor. They cheer for her, for him. An advisor replied carefully, "The people admire strength. She survived. She carries life. And the human, he fought your finest soldiers and lived." The king's voice was sharp. "He's a creature, not a prince." Another advisor stepped forward. "With respect, sire, if you do not act soon, he may become more than that. The people already call the unborn child Starblood, a symbol of unity between galaxies." Fellows stood, voice like thunder. "I will go there myself." 3 days later, the palace gates trembled once again. This time, not from warships, but from royal protocol. A great ship descended slowly. Flags of the royal family flew high. Gold light bathed the landing platform. The doors opened. King Thelos stepped out, followed by his guards and council. He wore his finest robes. His crown glowed. His expression was hard, unreadable. The people outside watched from a distance, not with awe, but with curiosity and quiet defiance. Inside the throne hall, Queen Aurelia stood at the top of the steps. Her crown had been polished. Her robes were new. She carried no weapon, just dignity. Ray stood beside her, silent, arms crossed, watching the king carefully. The tension was heavy. Thelos looked at her, then at Ray. Finally, he spoke. "You've made quite a mess." Aurelia didn't move. "I cleaned up yours." The king stepped forward. "You embarrassed me before the galaxy." "No," she said calmly. "You did that yourself." His jaw tightened. He looked at her stomach. "So it's true." She placed a hand protectively over it. "Our child will be born free." He turned his eyes to Ray. "And you are not royalty. You are not even alien. What makes you think you belong here?" Ray took one step forward. "I didn't think. I earned it. I protected her when you left her to die. I fought your killers. I stayed." Thelos's voice grew louder. "You are nothing." Ray's voice didn't rise, but it cut deeper. "I'm a man who loves her. That's more than you ever were." The silence was thick. Then the king looked around at the hall, at the guards, at the returned servants, at the old nobles who now bowed to Aurelia. He saw it clearly now. The galaxy had changed, not because of war, but because of love. Because of one human who showed up when no one else would. Because of one woman who refused to break. Because of one child, not yet born, but already stronger than any crown. Thelos stepped back. He didn't bow. He didn't speak. But he turned and walked away. And this time, no one followed him. After the king's ship vanished into the sky, Aurelia stood alone with Ray in the throne room. "Do you think he'll return?" she asked. Ray shook his head. "Not as a king." She touched her stomach gently. "Do you think we'll be good parents?" Ray smiled. "You ruled a galaxy. I survived space pirates. We've got this." She leaned into his arms, and they stood quietly. No music. No war. Just peace. For now. Across the stars, new stories began. Alien queens in other systems wrote letters, asking to meet the child when he is born. Young aliens mixed with human travelers in markets, saying, "We want to see Earth. We want to know more." A galactic council whispered about new laws, laws that welcomed humans back into royal territory. The world had changed, and at the heart of that change was one human, and the queen who loved him. A new empire is born, with a human father. 10 months had passed. The cold moon no longer felt like a prison. Now it was alive. The palace that once stood silent and empty now buzzed with people. Builders, engineers, scholars, and messengers from across the galaxy moved through its halls. Flags of unity flew above the towers, not just the symbol of the royal family, but a new emblem. 2 hands, one human, one alien, holding a single star. It was called the Starblood Banner, and it represented a new empire. Inside the palace, Queen Aurelia walked slowly down the hall, her long silver gown flowing behind her. But this time, she was not alone. In her arms was a small baby, wrapped in soft white fabric, his skin glowing faintly in the starlight. He was warm, peaceful, his tiny fingers curled around hers. A miracle. Her son. In the training yard, Ray Carter practiced with the royal guards, teaching them human fighting techniques. He laughed as 2 young alien soldiers failed to block his moves. Always expect the unexpected, Ray said. Humans don't fight by rules. They nodded, eager to learn. Ray was no longer just the outsider. He was the Queen's consort, the father of the galaxy's most famous child, and a symbol of Earth's return to galactic politics. But none of that mattered to him more than one thing: his family. When he returned to the palace hall, he found Aurelia waiting near the throne. She smiled and held out their son. "Your prince is hungry," she said. Ray smiled and took the boy in his arms. The baby looked up at him with wide eyes, deep gray like his mother's, but with golden sparks like his father. "I still can't believe he's real," Ray said. Aurelia nodded softly. "I couldn't believe it either. For so many years, I thought I was cursed, that I was broken." "You were never broken," Ray said, brushing his lips against her forehead. "You were just waiting for something different." She looked into his eyes. "No, I was waiting for you." The child was given a name in a special ceremony, one broadcast across hundreds of star systems. Cal Eris Carter, a name meaning hope born from stars. The galaxy watched in awe as Aurelia stood before the crowd, her voice calm and powerful. "I was once called barren, forgotten, thrown away like I was less than nothing. But I survived. I waited. I believed. And then came a man from a world far from mine, wild, stubborn, full of flaws, and full of love. From our bond came something no scientist could explain. From our love came this child, proof that the impossible is only a matter of time. I tell you this not as a queen, but as a mother. If you feel forgotten, if you feel broken, know this: you are not. Sometimes the stars are just waiting for the right moment to shine." The speech echoed across the systems. Many cried. Some cheered. And a new chapter began. The Galactic Council, once controlled by the king and his allies, now invited Queen Aurelia to speak. She entered the chamber with Ray beside her, holding baby Kale. Some leaders whispered, "A human," in the high chamber. Others rose to their feet, clapping. And when Aurelia spoke, the galaxy listened. She proposed a new accord, a treaty of peace, unity, and cooperation between species. She spoke of mixed families, of trade between Earth and alien worlds, of shared knowledge and freedom for those considered less valuable. She ended with these words: "The old world was built on fear. The new one will be built on love, choice, and courage. If you still doubt that, then look at my son. He carries 2 worlds in his blood. And he carries all our hopes." The council voted that same day. And for the first time in galactic history, a human child was added to the line of royal heirs. Years passed. The palace became a place of learning. Not just royal training, but schools, where alien and human children studied together. Ray taught engineering and combat. Aurelia taught leadership, diplomacy, and history. And Kale grew quickly. He had his mother's quiet wisdom and his father's fire. Even at age 5, he could disarm an adult guard with a single move, though Ray swore he didn't teach him everything yet. But most of all, he had something new: balance. Not just between alien and human, but between power and kindness. One morning, Kel ran into his parents' room, shouting, "Mama, Papa, a ship is coming. Ray looked up, confused. What kind of ship? Cale grinned. It has Earth colors, and a flag with blue and green. Ray's heart skipped. Earth? Aurelia rose, brushing her hair back. They said they'd visit one day. They all rushed to the balcony. In the sky above, a sleek Earth vessel descended slowly, not in war, not in fear, but in friendship. When it landed, Earth diplomats stepped out, some military, some civilian. One tall woman in a pilot suit saluted Ray. "Captain Carter," she said, "looks like you've been busy." Ray grinned. "You have no idea." That night, Earth and alien leaders dined together in the palace hall. There was laughter, stories, even dancing. Cale sat at the center of the table, eating with both hands, completely unaware of the history being made around him. At one point, a reporter asked, "Queen Aurelia, what will happen when Cale grows up?" She looked at her son, who was now standing on a chair, giving orders to the kitchen staff like a little general. She smiled. He will choose his own path, human, alien, or something new, something better. Later that night, Ray tucked Cale into bed. The boy looked up at him with sleepy eyes. "Papa." "Yeah, little star. Why do people look at me like I'm special?" Ray thought for a second, then said, "Because you are." "Why?" "Because you're the bridge between two worlds. You remind people that love wins, that hope is stronger than power, and that no matter where you come from, you can change the whole galaxy." Cale yawned. "That sounds like a big job." Ray kissed his forehead. "It is, but don't worry. You've got your mama's brain and your papa's heart." Cale smiled and fell asleep. Outside, Aurelia stood on the balcony, looking at the stars. Ray joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. She whispered, "Do you think we really changed the galaxy?" He nodded slowly. "No," he said. "I think we just helped it remember what it could be." They stood there for a long time, a queen and a human, once broken and cast aside, now rulers of a united world. And above them, the stars shone brighter than ever.